Hey everyone, and welcome to the Weekly Marketer Podcast. Every single week, we interview deep dive experts in one of the many fields of marketing to drop huge knowledge bombs from the best of the best and teach you how to take your marketing skills to the next level. This is episode 007, and I'm sitting with Gil David, who is one of the most skilled Facebook advertisers in the world. He runs the digital marketing agency Run DMG. Some accomplishments include reducing CPA for a client by 75% in less than a week and tripled another client's return on ad spend in a little less than a month. Gil, clearly you have a lot of experience with Facebook ads. How did you get started?
I guess it was mainly kind of playing about. I've been running Facebook ads now for about 5 years in total. And it was for a previous business where I was actually managing health clubs. So it started off like probably everyone starts off with boosting posts. And then I sort of looked into it more and read more about it and understood quite quickly that boosting posts was very limited, like everyone knows. And then I started diving into Ads Manager, which, again, as I'm sure everyone will be familiar with, it's quite scary the first time you get into it.
A little bit.
A little bit. I don't know if it's scarier now than it used to be or if it's about the same, but there you go. So, yeah, jumping into Ads Manager and then really kind of teaching myself initially and then reading more blogs and just getting more experience with the platform. I think one of the things with Facebook is you can do all the courses you like in it and do all the reading you like in it, but there's no substitute for actually running campaigns and running ads. That's where you learn the most about the platform.
Absolutely. Yeah. Trial and error is such an essential part of growing. So that's interesting. A lot of people, I find a lot of people have that sort of experience with whatever marketing discipline they're in, right? There was another agency owner I was talking to who did content marketing. And he started off, I was internal at a company and I was trying to figure it out. And and I saw, I'm really good at this, and then went out on their own. And so at what point did you kind of hit that decision where you're like, I went from boosting posts and now I'm doing Ads Manager. And what was that kind of point where you're like, actually, I think I could do this for like a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, my whole background is marketing. So my degree was in marketing. That's going back now 15 years. And back at that stage, I don't think Facebook was even around then. So it was, I look back at it and I kind of laugh now because there was nothing digital in the degree that I did. But I think it gave me a good basis in terms of, general overall marketing concepts from that kind of point of view. So what I liked about Facebook ads immediately was that you always know what the return is that you're getting, obviously if you're tracking things properly.
That's kind of the dream with like a lot of the old school. Maybe a lot of people, or at least a lot of my listeners, tend to be kind of younger and they don't predate like Facebook, Google, really. And so
yeah, they just kind of expect it. Yeah, but so the way we used to do it, like in health clubs, the traditional thing we did was we used to get 10,000 leaflets sent from head office to the club every month. We used to drop them out, and you never knew what you were getting back. Or we might do some radio ads, something like that. And again, you never really know exactly what you're getting back. So that was where I first started appreciating Facebook, because you always knew, how many clicks you were getting in the first place, how many leads are coming through the site, how many visitors, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then as I was running, I've been working in health clubs for 12 years, I think it was in total. And I just kind of got a bit bored of it. I always wanted to run my own business. So this is going back about 18 months now. I was actually moving down to Belfast from where I was before in Northern Ireland. And I just thought, I've been running Facebook ads here. I'd been helping out friends and stuff as well with it. People knew that I was, it was something that I was into in quite a big way. And then, then just got into running campaigns for clients, doing consulting, which is what I do a lot of now, and doing white label stuff for agencies. So it was probably about 18 months ago when I thought, right, I want to have my own business. It's what I've always wanted to do. What do I enjoy doing most at the moment? It's basically pretty much Facebook ads. And that's where I really focused on, taking my knowledge to the next level, getting as much experience as I could with clients on campaigns. Because like I say, I think that's something that's priceless, actually getting experience, running campaigns and understanding what's going to work here, what's going to work there, what isn't going to work, and understand what metrics you're looking for the whole time as well. Because I think a lot of people I see, one of the big mistakes I see people making is they put too much emphasis on things like relevance, score, and frequency. I saw something, it was in a group a few weeks ago, someone was saying, people were talking about rules, I think, automated rules. And someone was saying they have something set up where they kill ads once they hit frequency of 3. And I was like, why?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that I do see.
Because I think on average, people say now, this is kind of an old school marketing thing, but people need to see something at least 6 times before they pay much attention to it.
Yeah, I actually ran into somebody the other day that said it was like 17. And so his whole
probably even gone up now. Yeah.
His whole shtick was he would run Facebook ads to frequency 17 on people. I was like, that's a new one for me. Yeah. It's interesting. Everybody seems to have their own like little personal biases that come in. It's fascinating, kind of how those fall.
And I just think, look at the end results. If you've got a campaign that's delivering you sales and purchases, why are you going to get hung up on the frequency? Oh, I'm worried people are seeing my ads too much. If they're seeing it too much, they'll react, and you'll see that in the metrics when you're looking at it. So that, and then relevance score, as well as I do, you'll have ads with a relevance score of 2 or 3 that are still performing, delivering you a ROAS of 3 or more.
So that's actually an interesting transition, right? Which is so Facebook has evolved a lot from when it first started. I think that actually the first Facebook ad I ever ran was I boosted a post on my personal profile back when you could do that. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a very brief time where you could do that. It was in 2012, so about 6, a little over 6 years, I guess. And so it's really interesting. But yeah, Facebook's evolved an incredible amount. There used to be Power Editor, and now there isn't, and everything else. We should talk about kind of the state of things. Kind of where do we sit now, and kind of where do you see things heading?
I think as anyone who's running ads, on a regular basis at the moment will know it's kind of in a bit of flux at the moment. And I think a lot of that is to do with 2 things, really. So obviously the privacy issues they've had, and they're having to tighten up a lot more in terms of approvals and banning accounts and disapproving things and deactivating accounts and stuff like that. And then also in terms of because of what Apple did with the cookie tracking on Safari and third-party cookies. Most of your listeners probably know, but couple of weeks ago, Facebook announced that they're introducing first-party cookies, which is basically another way of tracking users, which is different to what they've done in the past, Facebook with the Pixel. So I know that's causing issues in terms of tracking things. People are saying DPAs aren't working properly at the moment, and I guess the big problem is as well that it's this is all happening in the middle of Q4. That's when people are spending the most money out of the whole year.
Yeah, CPMs, the cost per 1,000 impressions basically go 5x during this time of year.
Yeah, so it's crazy. And because you've got Thanksgiving coming up, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then obviously Christmas not long after that as well. So yeah, it's it's a bit of a crazy time of year anyway, especially if you're in e-commerce. So then the stuff Facebook, they've made a few updates in the back end. They've actually improved the platform a lot, I think. I don't know what you think about what they've done in the last few months, but they made some changes to just aesthetic changes, and then they brought things in like the new attribution, which looks really good. I saw a video you done on that the other day, actually.
Yeah. I was talking a little bit about that in one of the groups that we're in. Yeah, so it's interesting though. I mean, at the same time that I think you and I are pretty deep into it, which is why we talk about the changes and kind of the new and our complaints about the platform, which are numerous for me. But at the same time,
talk for 4 hours about complaints.
At the same time, it's Facebook. Though commands 40% of all digital spend or something like that, was just an astronomically high number. Well, Google's another 40%, and then you think every other website out there is sharing 20%, right? Yeah. Which is just nuts.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, though, people find a ton of value in it. It has a lot more flexibility in terms of campaign types and everything else. Really anything out there. I mean, that's why, all the complaints we have, we continue to, focus on it, or at least I do as well. So, I see some interesting trends, and I wonder if you'd agree with me on this, is, Facebook is moving more towards, they've been pushing this people analytics for a while. You know what I'm talking about? Where that's kind of the language that they've been using. Where
we track people, not cookies. They
right. Yeah, that's such an interesting trend and kind of development. I think if they can pull it off, which they're trying to do with this attribute tool, it would actually be incredibly valuable, right? Because when you get to a higher level of advertising, like you and I are at, you have clients that are running Google ads and Facebook ads and display marketing and all sorts of different things, right? And of course, every platform is set up to take credit because they want their platform to show the most return. So sorting through it has been difficult, but that's I think what they're trying to solve with that new attribute. What's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, one of the problems we've had with Facebook for a while is just the fact that it relies on last click attribution. So someone can click on an ad, a top of funnel ad, a video or something like that. And then a week later, if they click on another ad that they see, the second ad is the one that gets all the credit for the purchase and everything. So up till now, there's been no way to track and say, that first ad, it might have delivered a click, but is that actually contributing to the purchase? So that's always been a problem for a while with Facebook, which is something they're definitely trying to. I think that they've heard a lot of advertisers' concerns, and they've done a lot to start trying to fix them.
One of the big issues that I've had with it is I've run, a lot of influencer specific campaigns, right? And I'll run the campaigns through the influencer's account and all of that good stuff. But the company themselves are big companies, right? They have other ad accounts going and other agencies they're working with or whatever. And because they're all working off of the same pixel, it's still last view attribution. And so the retargeting was taking 90% of the sales away from the influencer campaign. It's just, yeah.
And then like, Joe
you guys are doing terrible. I'm like, where'd all these add to carts come from? Like, why is the conversion rate so low? So it's interesting. I am glad that they're moving to fix that.
Yeah, and it's something Google have done for a little while. You can have different attribution models in Google. I'm still trying to get used to calling it Google Ads, not AdWords. And obviously it's quite, there is, I don't know if you've ever heard of attribution.io.
Okay. No, I haven't used that tool actually.
That was pretty good up until Facebook introduced their own attribution. So basically it uses, I won't bore people with too many details, but if you're using UTM codes in the URLs, then it basically tracks those from first click through to purchase. You can track through Google, Facebook, everything all in one platform.
No, that's fantastic. I'll have to, now that Facebook rolled their own, and Facebook will even do it for platforms, that you aren't using.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing, how Facebook, you can even connect it to Google Ads. It's actually got the Google Ads logo in it, which is quite funny because, if you're ever using GTM, Google Tag Manager, they're kind of a bit childish about it. They don't actually have a setting for Facebook. You have to use a custom HTML.
So that's such an interesting thing. And it just kind of shows you, Facebook's mindset really when it comes to the digital advertising space or digital marketing space, which is they've basically given away a tool that they could probably charge thousands of dollars a month for, like legitimately, and everybody would pay it because they're just trying to keep you sucked into the Facebook universe. Even if you aren't buying Facebook ads, they're trying to say I want to make you dependent on Business Manager, even if you're not buying that many Facebook ads.
I want you to live your life in Business Manager.
Yeah. No, I don't know if you've seen that photo of, it's kind of a mural on a wall of Zuckerberg with like candles around it, right? But some days it does feel like that, it's like you can't get away from Facebook. It's kind of, and it's especially with the privacy things and everything else, and the currents of Russian trolls or not or whatever. It's like, there's a lot of people that are like, I'm deleting Facebook. I'm like, are you going to use social media at all? They're like, yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's way better.
Instagram, yeah.
Like, I don't think you understand how the tentacles go.
Like WhatsApp as well. I don't think you don't use WhatsApp as much as we do.
No.
In America, do you?
Yeah, not really, actually. I exclusively use it to talk to my friends in Europe.
There you go.
But WhatsApp is massive, and then they're making investments into VR and everything else, and then slowly rolling out ads for all of these things at the same time. So what's your take on that? What direction? Where's Facebook going? Because it's much more than just Facebook anymore.
Yeah, and then they brought it as well, which was kind of completely from left field, and no one expected it, which was the Facebook Portal device, which I don't think they've actually...
Oh, yeah.
It's not actually out yet. I think it's coming out in the next couple of weeks, but they announced it, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. And that was kind of one of those things where you think, what's the justification for it? And people are like, oh, it's creepy. I'm not having a device with a camera from Facebook sitting in my house, following me around the room all the time. I guess their aim is to be kind of everywhere. Which is why they started with Instagram, because Instagram was obviously huge, and they saw that as a bit of a threat. But it works, it's nice for us as advertisers because they work great together, Facebook and Instagram. And then WhatsApp, I think they're going to keep WhatsApp kind of separate because I think they like the whole end-to-end encryption privacy aspect of WhatsApp. So they're not going to mess about with that too much. But you can now, they just announced that you can run ads to WhatsApp. I don't think they're going to get to the stage where they actually have ads in the platform, because I think that would turn a lot of people off, especially in the UK. But definitely for businesses, being able to run ads to WhatsApp as opposed to Messenger is that's going to be a useful thing to see how that works out.
Yeah, no, that'll be incredibly interesting. And I mean, I suspect, but can't prove that they've been using, the data that they've been gathering from WhatsApp, or, I mean, outside of the encrypted stuff, right? Like they're still able to gather a lot of data. And I imagine that I suspect they've been using that for a while.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. I mean, because it's all free. I think people are realizing that more and more now, that if something's free, it's because you're paying for it with your data.
Yeah, you're the product. Yeah, exactly. So that's an interesting thing. So do you see kind of the future of Facebook as less of, as a marketing platform, it's just going to continue to snap things up and build new things and kind of extend its reach? Do you see it kind of more as like a data company than rather than like a specific social network? Like, kind of where do you think the future for Facebook is, and what are kind of the implications for advertisers? Kind of just in like a general theory sort of way.
Yeah, well, I think for advertisers, it's only a good thing that Facebook has more data. Although that's probably sounds like quite a scary thing to the average person.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much going to be in the same way that Google is to an extent as well, and Amazon is trying to go a similar way, but it's a bit more limited with what they can do. They've got the Echo and stuff like that. But I guess it's trying to have a presence in every person's life. So if someone's not on Facebook, they're on Instagram. If someone's not that active on either of those platforms, they've got WhatsApp. I think the portal is kind of appealing to an older market, maybe, who aren't as active on social media. Maybe although a lot of older people do use WhatsApp. I know a lot of other people, they don't really get Instagram. They don't use Facebook too much. So the portal device is, that's another good way of appealing to an older market, that sort of way. And then with what they're doing with, it's Oculus, isn't it? They bought the VR company. So VR is a funny one because it's always been something, people talk about as the next big thing, and AR is going to be the next big thing. But VR has never really caught on. I think there's two reasons for that. It's still fairly expensive. In terms of the technology, although it's more accessible than it was, 2-3 years ago. And then the other thing is a lot of people kind of get motion sickness and stuff like that from using the devices. And you can't actually, I think you're only allowed to use them for like 20 minutes or half an hour, they say, before you should take a break.
Right. That's an interesting kind of a point you bring up and about VR and AR. And I see Facebook, like, they just did 3D images and things like that, and they've been doing 360 videos and things of that nature. So they're starting to play more with AR. And for what it's worth, I was at a Halloween party and people were pulling out their phones to do, because the liquor bottles that they had, if you held the app over the phone, like the person on the front would talk to you, and they all bought the brand. And so I mean, I'm sure hopefully some marketing managers listening to this and like rejoicing because like they were like, I bought, and then I had a few people say,
that was me.
I don't like this brand as much, but I bought it because this is cool. So, I mean, I think I see like kind of steps into AR and, things like that. And so, there's a lot of interesting developments in the way that Facebook, that the digital world is going, but Facebook specifically is kind of at the forefront of most of these sort of developments, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. And it could be the portal turns out to be kind of a visionary device that, everyone ends up, Samsung copies it and Apple would do some kind of their own sort of device, and it could go big or it could just flop. But fair play to them for at least trying it in the first place, because it is something a little bit different. And I think people especially like the way that, as long as you can have some kind of privacy there's like a plastic clip that you can put over the camera. But I think people like the fact that you can just set the thing up, and you can be walking around the room or in your kitchen doing something, and the camera will actually track you around the room, which is a pretty cool feature.
Right. Yeah. I think that it might be, in that case, it might be more about like proving out the technology than like the specific application. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they do everything, from an ad standpoint too, kind of getting back to that on a machine, kind of machine learning has been like the big thing recently. Right. And so, kind of from, like I said, bring it back to advertising a little bit, what we're seeing with a lot of Facebook advertisers is it used to be, so the strategy used to be, for me at least, and please feel free to tell me I'm an idiot, like it was define as detailed of an audience as possible, and then just hammer them with different creative until you find something that works, and then keep it at like an even pace where you won't burn people out too quickly. Now it's kind of define a broad audience, do a lot of different sort of rapid testing, right? And then when you find something, pump money into that specific iteration and slow scale it up, because otherwise you're going to reset the optimization. It's all about kind of working with Facebook's machine learning algorithm. You know, at least that's my perception. What's your take on that?
I completely disagree. No, I'm joking.
Okay. I was like, no, fascinating. No, I'm genuinely. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna learn something.
No, actually, 100% agree with that. I mean, in the old days, yeah, it was, trying to micro target using layering different interests. So using people that are interested in something and something else even. Whereas now, like you say, yeah, it's, you get much better results from kind of giving Facebook a bit more responsibility, targeting broader audiences, and the algorithm go to work. And then, like you say, yeah, it's kind of a bit more intensive in terms of testing different creative and offers within that broad audience. Whereas before, it was you were maybe kind of testing interests more than the actual creative itself before. Whereas now, yeah, like you say, testing more creative and seeing what works, and then pumping the budget into that and trying to scale based on that. But yeah, definitely. I mean, apart from, although even local audiences, you probably use it yourself. The carpet bombing technique.
Yeah, that's what we should probably define that and give a little attribution. So it's Chris Colvert, right? Who says that, and basically the high level. You should join Facebook ad buyers because he is very generous with his time. And for all you listeners, join Facebook ad buyers and check him out. But very smart guy. And he basically has come up with this strategy where you kind of leave the targeting wide open, right? And you let Facebook completely do it, but for local offers, right? So it's just like the service radius.
Yeah, like a restaurant or something.
Yeah, like a restaurant or, local services, things like that. So so no, that's actually a great example of kind of the changes, because I feel like a couple of years ago even I spent 90% of my time running through and managing Facebook audiences, and nowadays I'm kind of spending 90% of my time cycling out different pieces and types of creative and stuff. It's just interesting how it's shifting. Why do you think they did that?
I think the algorithms got clever, and they kind of learn more as time's gone on. I think they've got a lot of feedback as well from advertisers and people running a lot of ads on the platform, because I think up until now, I've heard recently they do get their staff to kind of run some ads, but I know they had a lot of the you get the emails from the Facebook marketing experts trying to book you on a call or something like that.
Yeah, their support went from inaccessible to insufferable.
Yeah. So a lot of those people, I was kind of surprised when I heard that a lot of those people they haven't actually run ads themselves. They're just kind of reading from a script or a knowledge base on a computer.
Yeah, that's what I've churned my way through about 10 of them at some point or another, and like 2 of them were like former advertisers, and they knew. They were like, oh yeah, here's what triggers soft resets, which don't retrigger or don't change the audience optimization, and here's what the hard resets are, and they were able to actually talk shop. And the other 8 were totally useless. But I didn't say that. You have to be nice to them because they can help you out if you accidentally mess up and violate ad guideline.
And that's a whole other topic as well, the policy. But I don't know if you want to get onto that today.
It's there's we can touch on it a little bit. So there's kind of been the ad account apocalypse basically recently. And why don't I think you're a little bit better equipped to talk about that than I am. So why don't you kind of give your take on what's been going on and just the crying and moaning that we've been seeing from people that are, from many different kinds of people.
There's a lot of people needing hugs at the moment.
Yeah, with his security blankets and.
I guess it's been slowly happening over the last couple of months. But I mean, the first thing I personally noticed myself was when there's an old thing which maybe a lot of your listeners use as well, which is where the old advice was to have a load of backup ad accounts in case anything happened to the ad accounts that you're using. So you've got backup accounts that you can just start running ads from pretty much straight away. The first thing I noticed was suddenly that I didn't have a huge amount, because there was people that created hundreds and basically maxed out their business manager. I think I had about 15 maybe backup ad accounts that I just had sitting there just in case, for a rainy day if I needed them. And then suddenly I opened up my ads manager one day, or business manager, and I noticed they'd all been deactivated for inactivity. So what Facebook are doing now is if you have an ad account that has no spend on it for, I think it's 60 days, then basically they deactivate it. Part of it is trying to get rid of kind of spammy black hat accounts, or people that have hundreds of accounts just sitting there not doing anything. But I'm sure it's an element of them taking up space on their servers, things like that. I don't know. And also, I guess they just want people to be upfront. If we're running ads on this account, we're running them. That's fine. They don't want people to have to be having a backup account just in case an account gets deactivated, because they'll say, I guess from their point of view, they're thinking, what if we're deactivating your ad account in the first place? There's going to be a good reason.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And then we've seen kind of it seems like in the wake of the 2016 US elections and a bunch of other things, and Cambridge Analytica and all that, which, for us Facebook advertisers, actually Cambridge Analytica didn't seem all that impressive. At least to me. I was like, oh, I do that every day.
What's new about that?
But yeah, so it was interesting, and though it seems like Facebook, if you're getting into Facebook ads right now, state of the industry, like Facebook is now a hands-on support. They enforce all of their policies. They've got support there, but like it's akin to dealing with like a publisher with their guidelines and everything like that. It's self-serve still, but yeah. So what are your thoughts there? Kind of the evolution from like kind of the Wild West, if you will, to like today.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's probably easier for someone getting into it today because they can get in kind of with all the right habits from the start. I mean, one of the first things I'd say is to sit down. It's a bit boring, but sit down and read through the policy. And then if people kind of start off the right way, they're not going to get into bad habits like maybe some of us, people who've been advertising for a few years, are into. But it's not necessarily doing black hat or even grey hat stuff. It's ad copy these days as well. So, I mean, they've always been a bit funny about if you use the phrase "you" too much and direct it too much at people. But now they really seem to be cracking down on that. So, I've seen people in groups saying that they've used "you" once or twice, and it's not even directly calling people out, what I'd say, and you would have got away with it in the past, but now they're disapproving ads because of it.
Right. Yeah, that was actually like a really interesting development I've seen as well. So, I mean, Facebook obviously, it's come a long way, right? And it's kind of maturing as an ad platform. And we kind of went from this kind of micro targeting strategy where the creative was, still important, but it was really more about hitting the right audience, to now this place where the creative is kind of taken front and center stage, and such. And so what do you see when you work with like a number of clients? Like I said, we kind of did the intro there, but what do you see people screwing up the most? And then what do you see people doing right the most? So if like, my listeners, a lot of them are pretty like early stage startup sort of types, and they're trying to run their own ads. What do you see like some common pitfalls, and then, some like things that folks should be doing more of?
I think that the main thing I see advertisers not doing is testing enough. So I'll do an audit of an account and I'll see that, they've been running ad sets, only a handful of ad sets with one ad in each ad set, which is not something I'd ever really do these days. So these days I'd have at least 2-3 completely different ads running in an ad set. And also, I don't know if you do this, but I dupe them all as well, at least once in the ad set.
Yeah, because they can actually like hit, and basically, so the reason for that is that the Facebook algorithm is not perfect, right? The optimization. And so you want to give it the most chances possible within reason for it to be able to properly optimize. So sometimes it'll call ads after like 100 impressions, and that's no way to know if an ad's going to be effective. So so you duplicate multiple ads that are exact copies inside of ad sets, basically.
And what always amazes me is that you can duplicate the exact same ad, and if you're doing that as well, make sure you use the same original post ID as well, so any social proof gets carried across the ads. But yeah, what amazes me is you can have the exact same ad within the same ad set, and they'll perform completely differently at an individual level. And it's just because it's mainly probably about the first 1,500 impressions is so important in Facebook, trying to find the right people within the audience. And if it starts finding the right people, then that's a good signal. Generally, you can take that as the ad set is hopefully going to perform well. And if it isn't performing well, at that kind of stage, then that's obviously a more negative signal. But yeah, I mean, like I say, you've got to throw a few ads into an ad set and just give them a chance to build the data up and check the performance that way. And you will get something like say Facebook, I've seen it give ads maybe 100 impressions, and then it kind of stops spending on them. But as long as the other ones are working,
right? Yeah, Facebook's decided.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, as long as the other ads are working in the ad set, that's fine. Just leave it there or pause it, try in another ad set, because that's another thing I see people doing. They kind of throw stuff away too quickly. So this is at both ad and ad set level. So I mean, if an ad, just because an ad hasn't performed in one ad set doesn't mean it's not going to perform in another one. So kind of give it a bit of a chance across a few ad sets to perform, and if it's still not performing, then yeah, bin it off, don't use it again. In ad sets as well, you see it as well in groups a lot. People go, "Oh, there's something wrong with Facebook today. My CTR's gone down, my CPA's gone up, whatever."
Yeah, I had one go from a 5% CTR to a 0.5% in one day the other day, just as an example.
And then what about the day after that?
Yeah, it went back up to 4.5.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't realize how much it fluctuates on a daily basis. It's not a set kind of guarantee of performance Facebook ads. It is, and again, I think a lot of people don't understand how the auction works. It is an auction every day. There's auctions happening for your ads every time they're going out there, and it is going to be different every day. So you kind of have to don't look at things and react to them on a daily basis, but look at it over 3 days and 7 days, and then if an ad set's not performing, then yeah, you can kill it. But don't start questioning the whole thing just because the performance is down one day. You just kind of got to dust yourself off and go back at it the next day. So that's another thing, people kind of being too reactive and or not reactive enough. So kind of at two extremes there. So some people, they just kind of, I see a lot of ads, they kind of set up and they just leave them to run for weeks and weeks, and even if they're not performing. So yeah, so testing, again, people not kind of understanding what the right metrics are to look at and to judge ad sets on, which kind of goes back to putting too much emphasis on things like relevance score and frequency.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people, kind of going after, I don't want to call them vanity metrics, right? Because they are useful metrics, but they aren't the end all be all. Yeah,
they're what I call upstream metrics. So downstream,
I might steal that.
Got a little phrase. So downstream is all your kind of, purchases, initiate, checkout, add to cart, that kind of stuff, CPA. And upstream is then things like midstream, I call it, which is things like CTR, which is a decent indicator. And then at a high level, you've got things like CPMs and things like relevance score and frequency, which are they're only an issue if stuff downstream isn't performing. So you need to kind of look there first. Whereas a lot of people they look at things like frequency and relevance score first and say, "Oh, the relevance score is 3. I'm going to kill this ad." When it might be delivering in terms of purchases, but you have to look at that first.
Like, this ad's getting you 10x return.
Yeah, so who cares?
Yeah, I don't care if 99% of people hit it if that one person buys every time.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's like there's blogs out there or YouTube videos or something where people are told, "Oh yeah, judge your ads by a relevance score, and you want to get a relevance score of at least 8, or your ad's no good." Because that kind of seems to be a familiar theme. People are like, "Oh, they judge the whole ad on relevance score," when you and I know that's it's a secondary metric completely.
Well, that was so most of my audience is on Reddit, right? And that's where a lot of my distribution for my show is, and it's where I post all my videos, and things like that. And so I see almost daily somebody come in and just give bad advice about Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the scary thing is though, is that they're right about 80% of it, and so it's hard to sort out, like, unless you're in it, what is the bad advice. So like, there was somebody that the other day made a post, and they were telling about everything, and they were talking about defining broad audiences and about doing conversion ads, but then doing conversion ads with like add to cart or something like that, so it was a little bit earlier so they could get more data to optimize, and everything's great. And then they go and put one ad in every ad group, don't do any more to force it to serve, and then also kill it if it's less than like relevance 8. And I'm like, you were right there.
So well.
It was like, yeah, but yeah. So, I mean, I see advice like that all the time that's just a little bit off. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, though, there's like also advice, like you and I probably have different testing methodology, right? Where those are equal. And like, I know like Tim has his own testing methodology, which I won't, mention here, but like everybody's got a little bit of a different take on it, and those all work but because they have kind of the same basic principles, essentially, of understanding. And that's what I really find it comes back to, is understanding the metrics.
Yeah, I think it's basic principles, understanding what to look for, which only really comes with experience. And then it's also understanding that there's a lot of different tactics and strategies you can be using, but it's applying what the right one is for, not just for you as an ad buyer, but for you as, in terms of the actual account itself, because different things work in different accounts, different campaigns. So it's just knowing what you should be testing, what metrics to look for, and kind of applying the strategies that way. Whereas some people, they get stuck up in a certain strategy they see, and they try applying it to everything and it doesn't work. And then they say, oh, the strategy isn't working. And it's because you have to understand, you have to understand the principles of the strategy first. And then, obviously if it's right to, to be trying it for a certain brand, for a certain ad account, for a certain kind of campaign you're running.
Well, that's an interesting point that you bring up too, is a lot of people look for like kind of what's new and like everything else. But like the core principles of marketing haven't really changed all that much, a lot of the stuff that we pull on, especially for kind of the more direct response sort of Facebook ads and stuff like that, were perfected in the 80s with like mail, like post, like physical letters, like those metrics are largely the same. What is like the call through rate, what percentage of people are buying, where did we send these letters to audience segment, what calls to action, and like, it's interesting kind of how everything changes and nothing changes at the same time.
Yeah. And it goes back to, what I said about my degree, where it was, it's all kind of general marketing stuff. There was nothing digital in it because it was 15 years ago. And one of the main things I remember is that I think they have 7 Ps now. Back then it was 4 Ps. So it was product, price, place, and promotion. I think it was, or maybe it was 5 with people as well. And those, they're all still relevant today. And it's something that people miss. Maybe a lot of new advertisers coming into the business, into the game, they get caught up in the strategies and just the Facebook ads. Whereas, there's some products and stuff that, it doesn't work on Facebook. And I was working, for example, with a drop shipper a few months ago. It was a women's jewelry store. And I said to her at the start, I was a bit concerned, about the product. It was maybe it'd been overdone a bit. People get stuff cheaper on Amazon. There was a lot of other stores doing similar stuff, but we tried it already, and the stuff like the engagement on the ads was great. CTRs were good, but the product just wasn't selling. It just didn't sell on Facebook, just because the product it wasn't right. It was a saturated market. So it's understanding the kind of the overarching principles of marketing, and you have to have those 4 or 5 Ps in the first place for it to be viable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, basically kind of to summarize, the things that we're seeing that people don't do right are really around kind of not testing enough, throwing things away too quickly, and then focusing on kind of those upstream metrics like you're talking about. And then and could you summarize real quick what the things that you are seeing a lot of clients do right? Because again, like, I'm not talking to the experts right now, talking to folks that are trying to DIY. What are some powerful strategies that you're seeing clients on their own able to implement, that are able to give them a good return?
I'm seeing, which is good, is a lot of clients have kind of the pixel set up properly, and they got tracking set up properly. And a lot of them they're trying to use kind of lookalikes and stuff like that as well. I think there's a lot more knowledge out there about audiences on Facebook, and possibly it's a bit too much now about lookalikes, because as you probably seen, similar to me, they're not performing quite as well as they used to, lookalikes.
Right. Well, a lot of them need to be remade after each like major update is the problem, right? Because they cut out the detailed targeting, but the old lookalike keeps that, and so it screws everything up.
Yeah, but I'm seeing a lot of accounts, where the pixel tracking is set up properly. I think a lot of the technology these days, with plugins you can get which set up feeds for you, and install the pixel for you. I think that kind of stuff helps. And then I think people kind of have some of the right basic ideas in terms of the campaign setup and what they're going for. I think people now understand, if you're starting off an account, you try and go for purchases first. I still see a lot of misinformation about seasoning pixels and stuff like that, which is all rubbish, really, because of the pixel. You can't season a pixel. The pixel just holds data. It doesn't learn or anything like that. Any learning is at ad set, campaign, and account level.
Right. That is the seasoned pixel, which I use the term seasoned pixel, but I I used it. Well, so apparently Cat Howell is using it in a different way that I am, where I'm like, yeah, get the pixel onto the website and start building lookalike audiences is my advice. And I'm like, you can season it by that. But yeah, the pixel itself does not hold data. It's all done at the ad account and then ad set. Right. But yeah, so I should clarify. So I was using that term, but I'm using it in a different way. And now I have to change my terminology. Yeah. So, if you want to, the free $2,000 course there. That'll probably bite me in the ass. Hey, I did start an internet fight on my podcast.
I'm not saying anything else. And then I do see people come up with some good creative, especially if they're kind of working with someone that's their main job, or if they work with a creative agency. I see some really good creative coming through. It's just kind of applying it in the right way.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, and then not being afraid to try a different, just a tip. I get excited when I see people using the different ad types, like carousels and things like that, and using them in a way that makes sense, where you have like a photo split up across a carousel, or video and things like that, as opposed to just the single images still work. I run tons of single image ads, but I get excited seeing people test other things.
Yeah, so yeah, don't be afraid to test, really.
Yeah, don't be afraid to test. Always be T testing. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. I appreciate it. So we're gonna run through mailbag here real quick. Some questions from my community. Question number 1, Alex wants to know, how effective is Facebook ads for generating B2B leads?
Yeah, it can be effective if you do it right. I mean, most of the stuff I do is more B2C, but I've seen people getting good results even B2B. Possibly, it takes a bit more work, and it's one of the things I find that I prefer about B2C is I find writing copy is a lot easier. I find it easy to kind of write more engaging copy for B2C businesses than for B2B. But yeah, I mean, it definitely can work for B2B businesses. I see like SEO companies doing well from Facebook ads. I know there's a lot of insurance companies that do well on Facebook. So it can work, yeah. I mean, it's just finding the right audience, nailing that audience, what their pain points are, why they're going to be using your products, what's different about your products.
Yeah, you used to be able to target individual companies, but not anymore, really, unless they're huge.
Yeah. And then they kind of they took job titles away for a bit, and then they brought a load back, which obviously helps a lot. And then again, obviously with sort of the shift towards using broader audiences, that means you don't need to be kind of as micro-targeted as maybe you would have been before by certain job titles, things like that. So yeah, I mean, it definitely can work. I've seen it working really well for businesses in terms of B2B. It's just applying the right tactics, getting your audience right, getting your copy right, and testing really.
For what it's worth, my 2 cents, I have successfully run a number of B2B campaigns, although less recently. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. So I had a lot of success targeting teachers and things like that, like kind of more common job titles. So I don't know. Next question. How do you manage Facebook ad decay? And I think by this, they mean like kind of creative falling off after it's been working for a while. Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I see in a lot of accounts when I'm doing an audit is kind of if something goes wrong, they don't have creative ready to roll in straight away. So what I always do is always have one campaign which is dedicated to just testing creative, basically. So then if anything does go wrong in one of the ad sets, if the creative starts burning out, then I've always got ads that I can, that are performing to a decent level in a PPE campaign. And that's in terms of, not necessarily purchases, but if they're at least getting some engagement and CTR, and they also, the bonus is they're getting social proof at the same time. So always having an ad that you can roll in if something does start going downhill in what was a winning ad set. Right.
So basically your ringer ad, always have that in your back pocket.
Yeah, always have it goes back to, again, always be testing. So yeah, just having one campaign which is normally a PPE campaign where I'll just be kind of testing new creative, new copy versions. And if something does start dropping off the performance in one of your other ad sets, then you've always got something you can roll in. And it doesn't always work, but in theory, if it's been doing well in terms of engagement and CTR, it should hopefully perform in another ad set.
Well, that's a really cool strategy. Is always kind of have a stable of ads going and seeing, you know, kind of what the audience likes and such. So, and at the same time, you're building up engagement as well as you're proving it out.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to spend a huge amount doing that. You can just be spending, you know, $10 a day, $20 a day, just testing different stuff. And that's another thing that I don't see people doing is just things like that. They're focusing too much on the ads today. Whereas that's more thinking of, you know, in the future, if something does go wrong, you know, having a plan B there that you can stop them. Because I was doing some consulting on an account a couple of months ago and their ads are all going downhill. And I was like, okay, what creative have you got to roll in? Because these ads are clearly burnt out because they've been running the same ads for months and months. And they said, oh, we don't have anything. I was like, okay.
Cool.
And then so then they had to go to the client and the client had to go to the creative agency they were using. And it took like, I think it was about 4 days before they got any new creative through.
Yeah. That's fast.
So that's actually. that was pretty fast. Yeah. But there was still went there was like a period of probably a week in total when the ads were like literally doing nothing.
Right. Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, actually I had an opposite problem with a creative agency for what it's worth where they would give me new ads every week and they had to run them. But I was like, but these are working fine. And so every single week they wanted to run new. I was like, okay, you know, I guess so. But it's interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, so no,
and that's another thing as well. Yeah, I mean, if something isn't broken, if it's working, don't mess about with it. Don't, you know, stick new ads in the ad set. Don't mess about with it.
Yeah, once you've got a winner, I just leave that alone. I never touch it. Maybe if you're trying to scale, duplicate it or slow scale. You can slow scale, right? If you do it like 10% budget a day, it won't mess anything up usually.
I believe it's actually you can get up to 50%, but I'd maybe do 20% maximum a day if I'm horizontal scaling something. And at the same time, duplicating it and playing about with manual bidding, stuff like that. But yeah, something's it's working. You know, don't mess about. Don't stick new ads in there. Just see how they do, stuff like that. Just leave it.
Yeah, let it be. Don't mess with success. Yeah. Great. So next question. What are some tips for making, you know, effective and visually appealing Facebook ads?
I actually did a video on that in the AdLeaks group this week. So
which you should all join AdLeaks if you haven't. And use my link.
$1 trial for 14 days. Yeah, so there's some really good apps that make life so easy, and you can just do stuff on your phone. You wouldn't even have to do stuff on your laptop. Although I do like Canva if I'm using my laptop for making graphics, stuff like that. In terms of apps on my phone, the main ones I'd use for graphics are Adobe Spark. That's a good one. And then another one I mentioned in my video in AdLeaks was DeepArtFX. So that's a bit more limited in terms of what you can do, but you can create it's got some really, I think there's about 40 templates on there. And it just basically takes a kind of, some of them are a bit crazy and they look a bit shit if you ask me, but it's just playing about with them to find one that looks good. And then, so you can just take any image, run it through that, and it'll give you something that looks, you know, it really stands out. So again, it gives you something else to test, or even just taking an image, you know, if you've got a color image that you've been using and just grayscale it, make it black and white and test that as well.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't actually done that. You find that often will make a difference?
Yeah, I used to kind of do that a little bit, and I sort of got away from it a bit. I guess it's sort of trying to avoid shiny object syndrome, where you see new stuff, new ideas, and you're trying them out all the time. And then it was at Tim's mastermind. That's one of the things Depeche teaches. So that's one of his things is about, you know, using the same image and playing about with the contrast, making it black and white. And that's obviously really cost effective as well, because you're basically using the same image and it gives you a whole, you know, you can get 4 different versions of the exact same image and test those. And black and white, obviously, it's about finding stuff that is going to make people stop scrolling. So scroll stoppers. So, you know, you can have an image that you think, oh yeah, that looks really nice, that'll do well. And then you have one that maybe it's a bit rougher. It's maybe an image off a camera phone or something like that. You know, you test them both, and the one that's, you know, you don't think looks as good will do better, just because it stands out in people's feeds a bit more, or maybe it looks a bit more organic and it gets more attention. So it's really about just trying different versions of things and relying on the data rather than your own impression of, you know, what you think is going to do best or what you think should do best. Just go by the data.
Right. That's great advice, I think. So Adobe Spark and DeepArtFX.
and Canva as well. Canva's a good one. And then people using video. There's quite a few different. I'm actually going to be testing a couple of different paid video apps, but I've used Filmora Go and Legend as well.
Okay, Legend, interesting. I'll have to check that out.
That's a quick one. And I mean, if you're doing that for Instagram stories, you can actually. This is what a lot of people do is you can actually make the ad yourself in the story and then save that and use it as an ad.
Oh, interesting.
And that's great because it looks more organic to people when it shows up as they're going through their stories.
For sure. Yeah, the overly produced stories are sometimes a little too much.
Yeah, I'm finding the ones that the more real ones they perform a lot better than the kind of stuff that's cost maybe hundreds or thousands to make.
Right. Right. It's kind of funny how that ends up working sometimes. So so I guess we have a number of tools for you, but also don't be afraid to run ugly ads because sometimes they work really well.
No, because it'll stand out, it'll get people's attention, and the whole point is to get them to click. It's not to get people to say, "Oh, that was a really nice ad." It's to get them to click,
right,
and hopefully buy at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So we got 2 more questions here. What competitor research tools do you use for Facebook ads?
One of the best ones, to be honest, is the new, the info and ads tab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go to the page and click info and ads. Yeah, free.
Yeah. So going on that, also going on their website, obviously, and looking at the kind of images they're using on that. You should obviously get retargeted as well, so you should see the ads. Another good thing, I don't know if they've deactivated it yet, but if you're on mobile and you look at competitors' Facebook page and you go on the info and ads tab, if you actually click on the ad copy, it should take you into the ad itself. So you can actually see what comments are on there, how much social proof it's got.
Oh, that's great.
Which is something you don't get on desktop. I think if you click on it on desktop, it doesn't. I don't think you can even click on it on desktop. You just see basically what the ad is and the copy. But if you're on mobile, you can actually see all the social proof. You can see what sort of stuff people are commenting.
Well, that's a bug that they'll fix. But in the meantime, buy
that.
Yeah, get going.
They're listening to me.
No, that's great.
So that's 2 of the main things I do in terms of competitor research. You could even go as far as sending an inquiry through to them, seeing how they get back to you if you're running a lead gen campaign.
Yeah, that's one of the best things that kind of one of the advice is a lot of the advice when it comes to this stuff, I think, and feel free to correct me, is really it just comes down to testing and then seeing what other people are doing and implementing it yourself if you like it. So, find a competitor and go through their funnel. You'd pretend, I'm not saying lie and pretend to be a customer. I would never say that ever. I wouldn't do that. But, if you were to do that, you can kind of see how, which I would not do ever. You can kind of see how they structure everything, right? You kind of see, the way their landing pages work and how quick their follow up is and how they follow up and everything else, right? And if you're a Facebook advertiser or a marketer of some sort, don't do it for WordStream. They'll never leave you alone. They're really aggressive, so don't do that. But yeah,
and then I guess the other thing is audience insights. So if it's a page that's targetable, if it's big enough, then you can always put them in. You can still put those in audience insights and get a bit more information about their audience in there.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's great. Okay, final question. How effective are Facebook ads in generating actual sales? I get this a lot. I feel like a lot of amateur folks that will spin up an ad and then declare that Facebook is fraud or something. They're like, oh, Facebook's committing click fraud. I'm like, no. Probably not, but it does happen a lot, right? I'm sure you see it too, where people are like, Facebook ads are a scam, and it's like, well, that's the greatest scam ever perpetuated in human history. Then, but but how effective would you say it though? Just to
not that I'm biased at all, but to me they're very effective. I'm biased, but I prefer Facebook ads to Google ads, and I think they're more effective in terms of definitely B2C stuff than that. Obviously, they work slightly differently in terms of the intent level of people, but I'm not going to say that they're not effective because it's what I do every day, and that's what I see every day. But probably the main thing I see people who say, "Oh, Facebook ads don't work." Probably the main common theme I see there is they generally haven't spent enough, or they've completely tried doing it themselves maybe and haven't done anything, or they use someone that has only just started out doing ads, something like that. So they haven't really given it a proper go, because otherwise there's businesses there's I think 6 million businesses advertise on Facebook, and Facebook made, I think last year it was about $40 billion in ad revenue. They wouldn't make that revenue if people aren't making more back from it. So yeah, even if you just look at numbers like that, that tells you that something's working right for most people. So generally it's something that person's doing wrong, or that they haven't invested enough money in the ads in the first place.
That is the biggest thing I see, is somebody ran $20 and they go, I got no sales. I go, well, first off, what, you sell a $10,000 product? What kind of return are you looking for? Yeah. If I could consistently get 5,000% returns, yeah. I would be running my Facebook ads from my yacht in the Mediterranean.
I mean, I had that last year. I had someone came, I think it was like a local business group, but over here that I was in, and someone was saying, "Oh, I've never got Facebook ads to work," and I was like, "Oh, what sort of stuff you done?" And I talked to her a little bit, and I was like, "If you want to, add me to the account for a couple of days, I'll have a look for you and see what I can recommend." So she was saying Facebook ads never worked, and I looked in the account, and she'd run, I think the last ad she'd run was 6 months before that, and in total she'd run 3 ads and spent £28, which is like $35 probably, something like that. And saying Facebook ads didn't work. And these were they're all engagement ads. She didn't have a pixel set up or anything like that. So how would she even measure the success of it?
Right. Yeah. No, it's basically all kind of feel rather than, kind of metrics driven, which is kind of the underlying theme of everything we're talking about, whether it's testing or, holding on or whatever. It's about getting enough data and then making metrics based decisions. So
yeah, 100%.
That's funny. Yeah, no, oftentimes I find it's people not spending enough money, or not spending enough money a day, or not testing enough, or whatever. But I mean, like you mentioned earlier, there are some brands that just don't work very well with Facebook, for a variety of reasons. But those are I find those are more rare than common.
Yeah, I mean, generally Facebook ads should work. And if they're not working, it's, because either you're not doing them right, or you haven't invested enough, to buy enough data. And that's something I see a lot at the start with clients, is where they have to understand that you're not going to make, you're not going to get a 10x ROAS in the first month. You have to invest in you're buying data pretty much for the first few weeks to see what works, to be testing. And also, to build up retargeting audiences as well, because as well as I do, retargeting is where the money is. So you have to build those audiences in the first place.
Right. Yeah. If I'm on my front end ads and I'm making 3 to 5x returns into a cold audience, I'm extremely happy. And then the retargeting ads are really where it kind of boost everything up, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on accounts they're spending about £100,000 a month on the ads, and at the front end they're happy, not even breaking even, getting about a 0.6 ROAS and to the cold audiences, because it converts a lot so well further down the funnel.
Right. Yeah, that was a client that I worked with, doing some influencer campaigns, right? I won't say who, but they're one of the kind of recent $1 billion startup folks, and they were running. Yeah, we were spending $3,000 to $5,000 a day on ads, and they were losing money. It was they were okay paying 150% of the first month for the subscription, because they knew that the lifetime value, 2-3 years in, they would make 10x, 20x, or whatever. So it's interesting. So it's knowing your business metrics, I think, is a big part of it too, which is kind of what we're both getting at. Yeah,
definitely. In terms of especially the lifetime value, it amazes me how many, especially smaller businesses, don't have a full handle on what the value of a customer is to them. And if you don't know that, how can you go about working out what you should be spending to acquire a customer in the first place?
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions. Gil, this has been one of the best interviews I've done. Easily. This has been
glad to hear
fantastic. I think that there's so much knowledge and value in everything you've been saying. I would say to listeners, listen to this advice. This gentleman is one of, like I said, the best Facebook advertisers in the world that you can possibly work with.
Wow, thanks.
Really, really just right behind me in terms of no.
Just a level below.
He's just almost there. But
you're upstream, I'm downstream.
Yeah, no, so he really, truly, though, incredible advice. All of this is just so spot on. If you were to implement all of these today, I can almost guarantee you that you would see improvements in your Facebook ads. So, Gil, thank you very much for being here. Now is the time that I always want to let you pitch whatever it is that you want. I've gotten some weird ones too as I've gone. So feel free to truly whatever's in your heart, pitch it. And yeah.
That's been a pleasure, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm available. I do a lot of consulting. Consulting is actually what I really enjoy doing in terms of Facebook ads, because the first thing, I love helping people. So I really enjoy consulting, seeing what people are doing, what they've been trying in their ad accounts, and how I can have an impact pretty quickly by recommending certain things they can do, like we talked about in this podcast. So yeah, so if anyone if you want me to have a look at your ad account, I really enjoy doing audits, stuff like that. And then in terms of management, obviously I manage accounts for a variety of different clients as well. So I'm always available. So yeah, hit me up. My Facebook, Instagrams at GoRunDMG, or you can find me on Facebook. On my website's www.run-dmg.com. Find me on there. So yeah, if you want any questions, want to speak to me about anything else I've in more detail what we've discussed today, again, I'm always happy to help people. So yeah, just get in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're both moderators on the Facebook Ad Buyers group, which is, I think, the largest Facebook group.
I think it's kind of up there. With...
Tag Gil all day. He's got nothing to do. Tag him with any question you can think of. Really,
I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
Get some arguments going. Let's dive into the middle of that.
Yeah. Tell me that soccer's rubbish or something like that.
Yeah. What kind of idiot would do that? Yeah. Great. No, that's fantastic. So yeah, if you're looking for elite Facebook consulting and just the best advice that you could possibly get to take your Facebook ad account to the next level, check out Gil. Gil, thank you once again for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And for all of you listening out there, take this advice, run with it, make your marketing better, and happy marketing, everyone.